So, 51 people have died so far in Egypt after the unrest. So they say the death toll from the army's Monday attack on supporters of ousted President Morsi has risen to 51. On Monday, more than 50 people had been killed during clashes between the army and Morsi supporters. The development came after the army opened fire on supporters of the Muslim Brotherhood in Cairo, prompting the Brotherhood to call for an uprising against the militancy. Egypt on verge of civil war, says Putin. He said Syria is already engulfed in a civil war, and no matter how sad it may sound, Egypt is also moving in that same direction. It would be good if the Egyptian people avoided this fate. Interim Egyptian president gives himself legislative powers. So this Adli Mansour had issued a decree giving himself power to make laws after consulting with the new government. Egypt's army chiefs studied at War College in basically the United States. So it says here, with unrest in Egypt, U.S. military officials looking for insight might test the ties they formed with the Egyptian defense minister, Mr. al-Sisi. So this is when he was a student at the Army War College. Retired Colonel Stephen Garaz says here, in a little historical Pennsylvania town, the most important school in the world operates under the radar. This al-Sisi was Garaz's student. In 2006, he watched the Steelers beat the Seahawks 21-10. And lastly, recruiting al-Sisi and military leaders from other U.S. allies to build professional and personal relationships at the Army War College is an investment in the future, said Major. Then the U.S. remains comfortable with Egypt's coup. Egypt's envoy says it's not technically a coup. The Egyptian ambassador was quick to spurn the notion that Egypt had undergone a military coup just because the military has seized control of the nation, jailing the former government, and was now running things. So the Obama administration has appeared entirely comfortable with the matter, and senators on Sunday news showed they were quick to agree, getting the coup with the support for continued aid in the name of democracy. John McCain was one of the rare dissenters. Then again, he's also calling for arming mostly terrorists in Syria. So, though U.S. law is clear that you can't aid a junta after a coup, and English language dictionaries are pretty clear on what the word coup means, the decision among officials is that never the twain shall meet, and aid won't be impacted by pesky things like the law. Members of the ousted government say they've been under pressure from U.S. diplomats to simply accept the coup as reality, urging them to embrace being ousted by the military, at least the ones who aren't being held without charges by the military, and engage in whatever political process may emerge from the coup or junta's edicts. Britain's ex-prime minister sides with the Egyptian army in ousting President Morsi, so not a very big surprise that they're all supporting this. He said, "I'm a strong supporter of democracy, but democratic government doesn't on its own mean effective government." Tony Blair hired an ex-Israeli army intelligence officer. He's hired a former Israeli army intelligence officer to work in his private office despite his role as Middle East peace envoy. This is Leanne Pollock, who has led intelligence teams in the IDF, was recruited as a private consultant between October 2012 and April of this year. Pro-Israel advocates push for continued aid to Egypt. So 2 days after the military coup that ousted Morsi, Washington appeared deeply divided on how to respond to what most experts believe is a critical moment for the future relations between the U.S. and political Islam, both in Egypt and throughout the Middle East. This is my website, Global Government News. The domain is ggnonline.com. On YouTube, my channels are ddargo2012 and ddargo2013. What is your favorite GGN topic if you are a GGN listener? So far, a majority are saying that eugenics, social engineering news, 51% is their favorite topic, followed by War on Terror, Liberty, Sovereign news, which I'm covering right now. 10% say Big Brother, surveillance news, and other 6%, which I thought about should have been the economy. So, U.S.-backed Morsi and coup against him, says analyst. So a political analyst says the U.S. sanctioned the Egyptian army's coup d'etat against the country's former president Morsi, who paradoxically also enjoyed Washington's support during his presidency and probably also supported the coup or change. Well, there wasn't a coup, maybe it was a political coup, but it says we should be under no illusions. The Egyptian military may have differences within its ranks, but ultimately it toes the line. It takes the orders from Washington, D.C. He described the Egyptian army as the largest recipient of U.S. military aid after Israel and a strong ally of Washington. He said that the coup was orchestrated with the green light from the Pentagon. U.S. Defense Secretary Hagel, as well as the Chief of Staff General Dempsey, were in permanent liaison with the architects of the coup in the 2 weeks preceding the military takeover. Egypt to vote in new parliament by February. So they're going to vote on a new parliament in 6 months after amendments to the constitution are approved in referendum. This is an outline by interim leader Ali Mansour's new decree. The real coup is Egypt's El Baradei named interim prime minister. It says there's a remarkable replacement, Mr. Mohammed El Baradei, the lone leadership figure with deep Western appeal and the resume and ideology to match. I say it wasn't really a big surprise because El Baradei was sitting next to General al-Sisi when he announced the ouster of President Morsi, which already indicated that he was to take up the important role in the new government. All right, here we go with the name pronunciations. Ziad Baha el-Din likely to be chosen as new Egyptian premier. So liberal candidate El Baradei to be appointed vice president. So that's kind of the latest that I got for you. He's a lawyer and member of the Egyptian Social Democratic Party, has been chosen as the new Egyptian prime minister following the ousting of Morsi. It says here he's 71 years old, a Nobel Peace Prize winner and former UN nuclear agency chief. Also, his last nomination angered key Islamist party members. Islamist Party, a surprise force in New Egypt, so I'm not sure what the heck they're going with this, but so you're having conflicting news here as far as who's heading it up. A party of ultra-conservative Islamists has emerged as an unexpected political kingmaker in Egypt, shaping the interim government after the coup. The Al-Noor party, widely regarded 2 years ago as the bumbling amateurs, now has unique leverage. Says it was the only Islamist party to support removing Morsi, despite his ties to more moderate Islamists of the Muslim Brotherhood. Qatar and the Brotherhood losing the crown jewel. Says the collapse of the Muslim Brotherhood's rule did not just impact the supporters in Egypt. In Qatar, it caused a tremor inside the whole ruling establishment, destroying the political bridges it had built to exert influence in the country. Qatar was the mother whose milk fed the Islamist groups. It spent billions to install them in power. Observers estimate that Qatar paid more than $17 billion to Arab Spring countries, especially the deposed President Morsi. This could be the beginning of the decline of the role of Qatar under the new emir. So this is pretty interesting too. This could be the biggest reason why this happened or occurred, and was supported by the UK and the United States, that Qatar is just getting too big. Now all of a sudden you have the new emir in Qatar. That's also interesting. And Qatar was a real big financial backer of what's going on in Syria, and obviously they're losing there too. So I don't know what that indicates for the future, but I saw this on InfoWars, Ron Paul Institute for Peace and Prosperity, and he titled it The New Egyptian War, Americans Lose Again. But I don't really think that they lose again, because they're going to get exactly who they want, right? They win. So the globalist Egyptian gambit, El Baradei, he says here, from the Council on Foreign Relations to the Brookings Institute, globalists agree, Baradei for Egyptian president. So he's actually sitting on the board of trustees of the Zbigniew Brzezinski George Soros globalist think tank, the International Crisis Group. Egypt's army preparing for Sinai operations. This is also something that you should consider too as far as Syria. This is not, this probably won't help the region, especially Syria. Egypt's army is preparing for a large-scale military operation in the Sinai Peninsula, says here. The military official told Mon the army was preparing for major operations to clean it up from terrorists and criminal cells, including smuggling tunnels. The 1979 peace treaty between Israel and Egypt has imposed strict controls on deployments in the desert peninsula. Says army officials said the coordination is ongoing between Egypt and Israel to bring military vehicles, troops, and jets into Sinai to fight terror. Lastly, Egyptian soldiers and armored vehicles have deployed heavily along the Gaza border for 2 weeks now. Egyptian militants bomb pipeline to Jordan. Militants in Egypt's Sinai Peninsula bombed a gas pipeline to Jordan on Sunday, witnesses say, amid a surge in attacks on police and soldiers since Islamist President Morsi's removal. Egyptian gas covers 80% of electricity generation in Jordan, which imports 95% of its energy needs. Egypt imposes travel restrictions on Syrians. The authorities in Egypt have started imposing travel restrictions on Syrians, requiring Syrian nationals to get visas before arriving in the North African countries. What's going on there? Remember, right before Morsi stepped down, they had that odd article that came out of nowhere. Not just an article, what Morsi was doing, which was cutting off relations with Syria. So this is probably a continuation of it. Syria army makes progress against Tikfiris near Damascus. So they made some advances in the areas in the outskirts of Damascus. Foreign-sponsored militancy has taken its toll on the lives of many people, including a large number of Syrian soldiers and security personnel. Like I said, their main plan now, I think, is just to starve the people and cause their money to be inflated, or basically to lose value. Gas supplies low, electricity's rationed, so. And basically, they're able to secure most of the country except for Aleppo. Desperate measures, Syrian rebels vow suicide bombings amid losses in Homs. The rebels demand U.S. arms in long-contested city. So the rebels are reporting that they are running out of arms and supplies, which is par for the course, also demanding an immediate influx of arms from the U.S. and Europe to keep the city from falling. Talking about Homs. While the predictions of doom aimed at selling the U.S. on arming them is nothing new, rebels are also showing videos of themselves with explosive belts, pledging to detonate if the mosque that is at the center of the city falls to the government. Assad to Algerian delegation. It says here, a country of 1 million martyrs will continue defending. So it goes on here, and he said the solidarity of the people of Algeria with the Syrian people confirms the depth of the Arab national awareness, adding that the Arab national identity was and will remain the refuge and invincible fortress that saves our peoples and stability. Syria's Ba'ath Party appoints new leadership. They announced on Monday it replaced its top leadership, including Vice President Farouk Sharaf. So the party central committee held a lengthy meeting on Monday morning at which the new national leadership was chosen. Published the names of 16 members of the new leadership, which included none of the party's old chiefs with the exception of President Assad. The website said Assad would remain the party's Secretary General. Election of new head of Syrian opposition seen as victory for U.S. and Saudi Arabia. The election of the new leadership by the Umbrella Coalition, I guess you can call it that. I call it a terrorist mercenary proxy force of Syrian opposition figures, reflects an internal policy shift towards the influence of the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. Oh, a shift towards, so they're just, the U.S. is now just getting into it. Saudi Arabia is just now getting into this. It's funny. So the terrorists say they won't attend the Geneva conference unless it becomes militarily strong. In other words, show me the money, show me the weapons, right? The new head of the opposition, Syrian opposition, said he expected advanced weapons supplied by Saudi Arabia to reach military mercenaries soon. It says here that if we're going to Geneva, we have to be strong on the ground. He says right now their situation is weak. So, in other words, they want to be able to inflict as much damage as they can to basically go to this meeting so that they can tell Assad to step down. That's not going to happen from just based off everything that's been that's played out so far. Because they don't want peace, and they don't want to go there and have any kind of peace talks. Many of these people aren't even Syrians, but so if they did represent the Syrian people, they'd be interested in getting the electricity running again and get things back to normal. But they don't, because their job is to create all kinds of basically instability. Britain to step up aid to Lebanese army. The British government is preparing a substantial new package of military assistance to the Lebanese army to supplement its existing program. Also, you had, basically Lebanese saying, enough of sending Hezbollah brothers over to fight for Syria. So we'll see what happens with that. A former French minister, Anglo-French operations against Assad prepared, preconceived, and planned. The operation goes way back as prepared, preconceived, and planned. What he recently told the Syrian news outlet Sana. He said he was in England 2 years before the violence in Syria on other business. I met with top British officials who confessed to me that they were preparing something in Syria. Israel grounds warplanes after F-16 crashes at sea. So did it crash? Was it shot out of the sky? Libya, hundreds gather in Algeria's square. They plan to take on the militia. You have thousands that demand secession for South Yemen. The 19th anniversary of the civil war that was won by the North to demand secession for the South. A judge says, I can't stop Guantanamo force feeding, but Obama can. Bin Laden files purged from Pentagon computers and sent to the CIA.